In storytelling, the power of threes reigns supreme. Whether it's the iconic trio of Pokemon legendaries, the adrenaline-pumping trilogy of the Die Hard movies, or the soulful rhythm of blues measures, the rule of threes captivates audiences worldwide. But what happens when this cherished trope is dismantled by the very hand that once upheld it? Enter Edward Sallow, a figure we've delved into on this channel only briefly. Positioned at the apex of his own empire, Sallow's ascent to power in the Mojave was marked by a ruthless pursuit of dominance and sowing terror and brutality in his wake. Yet, amidst his climb, he betrayed those who offered him aid, callously stepping on the heads of those who helped him ascend. For Caesar, the allure of his iron fist beckons, promising control and authority at any cost. Yet, his journey unfolds. The harsh reality dawns. The path of tyranny offers little solace, its rewards tarnished by the weight of the suffering that it inflicts. Today, we delve into the rise and expansion of a single man's empire who, like the stories of old, came to the Colorado for one reason: Veni, Vidi, Vici. Welcome to Caesar's Legion. Edward Sallow was born in 2226 near the Boneyard, making him a natural-born citizen of the new California Republic. Only 2 years later, however, his father's life was taken by the hands of raiders, and his mother felt she had no other option but to seek protection within the local chapter of the Followers of the Apocalypse. She worked for the faction as a cook, as well as helped keep their library clean. By doing so, she earned Edward a free education from the Followers. Although his father may have died, it did lead to him having a much higher degree of living compared to the average wastelander, or even the majority of NCR citizens. Rather than only having basic needs met, he was given an education, something not very many people were privileged to receive. The Followers preached a lesson of bringing the torch of knowledge to everyone within the wastes. As Edward grew in age and knowledge, he would not agree with this sentiment, as he tended to have a narcissistic attitude. This, combined with his bad temper, also made it hard for him to get along with others his age. For Edward, the Followers were never an inspiring example, their devotion to scholarship too stifling, their mission of enlightenment too naive. Edward was eventually trained to be an anthropologist and linguist within the Followers, and a notable one at that, though his early academic years were highlighted by only what he found interest in. If Sallow ever found himself in a class that taught a subject he never cared for, he in turn paid no mind to it. This led to him having very lopsided views on the world, just the start of something that would have immense repercussions for the wasteland in the following years. In the year 2246, amidst the desolation of post-apocalyptic America, the Followers of the Apocalypse sought to expand their understanding of surrounding tribal languages. To this end, they dispatched an envoy to the Grand Canyon, a territory fraught with danger and mystery. Among this envoy was Edward Sallow, a young member of the Followers who had once fled the horrors of war as a refugee. Accompanying him was Bill Calhoun, a skilled physician and fellow member of the Followers. Their journey through the wasteland was not without its perils, and along the way, they encountered Joshua Graham, a Mormon missionary well versed in the local tribal dialects. United by their shared mission, the trio ventured forth towards the Grand Canyon, eager to unravel its secrets. Sources conflict on the total size of the party, with Joshua and Edward accounting only 3. However, New Vegas's official game guide claims up to 9. Either way, as the group encountered tribals along their journey, Edward became disgusted by the primitive conditions in which they lived. His once excitement for having the opportunity to leave the Boneyard turned into disappointment. He pondered while watching their strife and petty struggles, thinking of the true order of the wasteland, concluding that it was one of anonymous, amoral liberty. The wasteland called to him as a blank slate, upon which a man of will could write his own destiny. Continuing along their path, they happened on a stash of pre-war historical books at the same time he was conceiving these ideas. Edward ended up enamored with the books on ancient Rome, namely, The History of the Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, and Gaius Julius Caesar's own Commentarii de Bello Gallico, also known as the Commentaries on the Gallic War. These would have absolutely no impact on his character. None at all. Edward was always interested with adventure fiction and comic books, but his favorite subject by far was history, and so the task of cataloging and studying these texts fell to him. Though he was faintly aware of basic facts concerning ancient empires, these books filled in many previously obscure details. He essentially became a hermit for the following 2 weeks of the expedition, learning of the Roman Empire and fetishizing over Julius Caesar's own accounts of his campaigns in Gaul. Edward was beginning to enjoy himself again on their expedition, the books having changed his life forever, and determined to live a life as great as Caesar himself. After all, who in this illiterate, benighted world would ever know that Caesar was not his original creation? However, their expedition took an unexpected turn when they fell into the clutches of the Blackfoot Tribe, a fierce faction embroiled in a brutal war with 7 other tribes in the area. They started out friendly enough with each other, but an incident occurred involving a possible mistranslation, and the group was taken hostage. Joshua felt responsible for the outcome, as he was the caravan's expert translator. Bill attempted to keep everyone calm. Then there was Edward, recognizing an opportunity amidst the chaos. He discerned that the Blackfoot tribe was on the brink of defeat, due to their lack of military prowess. Their tribe was a sorry sight in his eyes, compared to what he knew of the Romans. They were weak and insignificant, but he thought of a way to change that.
The Blackfoot were at war with 7 other tribes, each just as pissant as they were. But outnumbered like that, they weren't going to last long. It's one thing to be taken hostage, another to be lashed to a sinking ship. So over Calhoun's objections, I decided to take certain steps.
Refusing to become casualties of this conflict, Sallow assumed the role of war chief, drawing inspiration from the ancient Roman legions to train and lead the Blackfoots in the art of war by Sun Tzu. I mean the Romans. The art of war by the Romans.
I taught them how to use the guns they already had, how to strip and clean them, how to breathe when pulling a trigger, how to reload ammunition. They looked at me like I was some kind of a sorcerer. So I taught them how to make explosives and started drilling them on small unit tactics. If there's anything I learned as a follower of the apocalypse, it's that there's a lot of good information in old books.
Through weeks of rigorous drills and strategic guidance, he transformed the once struggling tribe into a formidable force, capable of not only defeating, but subjugating their adversaries. This growth of manpower only beckoned Edward with a calling of order, of structure, in his growing army. His first objective was defeating the weakest of the warring tribes, the Ridgers, taking after Julius Caesar's strategy of divide and conquer. After having decisively destroyed them in battle, they still refused unconditional surrender. So, as it goes, Edward ordered them all to be put down, every man, woman, and child. He then moved his focus to the Kaibabs tribe. They too also refused to surrender unconditionally. He brought their envoy to the remains of what was once the Ridgers, to allow them to reconsider his gracious offer. They were in shock and horror at the mound of deceased tribals. Sallow later describes what the tribals considered to be their version of war.
This was new for the tribes, you see. They played at war, raiding each other, a little rape and pillage here, a little ransoming there. I showed them total warfare. Like I said, there's a lot you can learn from old books.
This new form of brutal warfare would become the core and epicenter of Legion strategy and philosophy in the future. After such a sight, the Kaibabs surrendered, rather than meet a fate such as the Ridgers. They were followed by the Fredonian tribe, and soon by the remaining tribes of the canyon. Edward had convinced himself that the root cause of all the menial problems of the wastes were due to tribal identities. Having so many small groups quarreling amongst each other prevents any real progress with recovery from the effects of the Great War. He came to the conclusion that he must remove all of the tribal identities and replace them with a single, monolithic culture. Only a year after being taken hostage by the Blackfoots, in 2247, he began to take steps into fulfilling this self-proclaimed mission. In a bold move, Sallow proclaimed himself Caesar, the supreme leader of the newly formed legion, with Joshua Graham as his trusted Malpais legate. Under his reign, the legion expanded its influence, assimilating conquered tribes into its fold and instilling a sense of loyalty and respect among most of its subjects. The remaining subjects he acquired obedience through fear, violence, and slavery. His new great tribe was heavily influenced by the Roman Empire. Most history pre-war, especially ancient European history of the Romans, was completely foreign to the tribes the legion subjugated. Caesar used the books he acquired on Rome as a blueprint, and as previously asked, which illiterate tribe would know that he was not the original Caesar, and that his Rome was merely a copy of a civilization long gone? Secondly, he considered Rome's highly militaristic autocracy as a perfect machine for this purpose, fit to easily subjugate and add to his society, while also being adaptive enough to not only overcome challenges in the wastes, but thrive in such a condition.
I used Imperial Rome as the model for my legion precisely because it was so foreign, so alien. I'd seen what had become of the NCR's attempts to emulate the culture of pre-war America, the infighting, the corruption. Rome was a highly militarized autocracy that effectively integrated the foreign cultures it conquered. It dedicated its citizens to something higher than themselves, to the idea of Rome itself. In Rome, I found a template for a society equal to the challenges of the post-apocalyptic world, a society that could and would survive, a society that could prevent mankind from fracturing and destroying itself in this new world by establishing a new Pax Romana.
However, as the legion rose to power, tensions simmered within the trio. Sallow's ambition and ruthlessness threatened to overshadow the original mission of the followers, prompting him to issue a directive to Bill Calhoun to return to the followers and warn their comrades not to interfere with his plan. Calhoun was lucky in this regards, as the remaining followers were slaughtered and not given the chance to return. With this decree, the dynamic of the trio shifted, leaving Sallow and Graham to navigate the treacherous path ahead, their alliance tested by the weight of power and ambition. Edward Sallow as the self-proclaimed Caesar and son of Mars, and Joshua Graham acting as his right hand, serving as the first legate. As the legion's influence grew, the consequences of Sallow's actions reverberated through the wasteland, shaping the fate of all those who crossed its path. In the early years of the legion's rise to dominance, the Twisted Hares tribe of Arizona emerged as a pivotal ally, their formidable prowess as scouts proving invaluable to the legion's expansionist ambitions. Their deep knowledge of the rugged terrain and intricate network of tribes across the region provided Caesar's forces with a strategic advantage, allowing them to anticipate enemy movements and launch devastating ambushes. As the alliance between the Legion and the Twisted Hares flourished, a sense of mutual respect and camaraderie developed between the two factions. The Twisted Hares, once wary of outsiders, found in Caesar's vision of unity and order a beacon of hope amidst the chaos of the wasteland. In turn, Caesar recognized the value of their expertise and the resilience of their warriors, forging a bond built on mutual benefit and shared goals. However, as the Legion's power swelled and its ambitions grew even grander, the fragile alliance between Caesar and the Twisted Hares began to strain. The allure of conquest and the promise of expanding the Legion's dominion proved too tempting for Caesar to resist, and, in a fateful decision, he chose to betray the trust of his allies, conquering them and crucifying anybody who refused to bend the knee. This came shortly after the Twisted Hares helped the Legion conquer the surrounding tribes of western Arizona. Those who resisted the will of Caesar within the Twisted Hares were captured and crucified along I-40. By this time, the Legion was massive in size, having conquered territory in Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico, and as well as Utah. They even controlled major cities such as Phoenix, Tucson, and Flagstaff, their capital. But Caesar was not satisfied with what progress was made up to this point. He desired to unify everything, from the Blackfoots to the Twisted Hares, and even the many other unnamed and forgotten tribes that were consumed by this machine. It needed more, or risked the chance of stagnation, and ultimately running dry and dying out. But around this time, Caesar was given reports of a hidden jewel within the wastes. This jewel was the Hoover Dam, and alongside it came a city of unmatched grandeur. In the year 2271, the ominous shadow of the Legion loomed large over the post-apocalyptic landscape of the American Southwest. The relentless march of Caesar's forces, fueled by an insatiable hunger for conquest and domination, sent shockwaves of fear and uncertainty rippling through the Mojave. The Legion had grown large, so large in fact, that even the ever-growing NCR took notice of their snowballing conquests. In response to this growing threat, President Kimball of the new California Republic took decisive action, orchestrating the Ranger Unification Treaty. Under this historic agreement, the Desert Rangers of Nevada, renowned for their rugged independence and unwavering dedication to protect the people of the wasteland, joined forces with the NCR. United in purpose and resolve, they stood as a wall against the encroaching tide of tyranny, vowing to defend the freedoms and values that defined their way of life. We can also assume that around the time of this treaty's ratification, the first major open conflict between the NCR and the Legion occurred. In an unspecified part of the NCR southeastern border, Fort Aradesh, a major military encampment founded by the NCR, was suddenly attacked by Legion forces. The date of this engagement is unknown. All we know is that very few of the NCR garrison survived the attack, and that the Legion completely decimated what remained of it. And the once standing Fort Aradesh was renamed into Fort Abandon. This fact is something that the Legion would use to taunt NCR soldiers with. The results of this battle would also ingrain a sense of superiority over the NCR within Legion ranks. However it happened, all we know is that the NCR suffered greatly at the hands of the Legion. Despite the valiant efforts of the NCR and the Desert Rangers, Caesar's Legion continued to gather strength, biding their time as they prepared to unleash their fury upon the unsuspecting Mojave wasteland. In 2277, under the command of the enigmatic Caesar himself, the Legion made its move, establishing a formidable base of operations atop Fortification Hill, overlooking the strategic vantage points of Lake Mead and the Colorado River. From this imposing stronghold, the Legion launched a relentless campaign to seize control of the Mojave. Their forces, bolstered by a conglomeration of an astonishing 65 conquered tribes up to this point. With each passing day, their grip on the eastern bank tightened, as villages fell and settlements crumbled beneath the weight of their overwhelming onslaught.
The NCR has all the problems of the ancient Roman Republic. Extreme bureaucracy, corruption, extensive senatorial infighting. Just as with the ancient Republic, it is natural that a military force should conquer and transform the NCR into a military dictatorship. Thesis and antithesis. The Colorado River is my Rubicon. The NCR Council will be eradicated. But the new synthesis will change the Legion as well, from a basically nomadic army to a standing military force that protects its citizens and the power of its dictator.
As the Legion's advance brought them into direct confrontation with the NCR near the bustling hub of New Vegas, The stage was set for a showdown of epic proportions. The fate of the Mojave hung in the balance, as two titanic forces clashed in a struggle for supremacy that would shape the destiny of the wasteland for generations to come. Amidst the arid expanse of the Mojave wasteland, the tensions between the NCR and Caesar's Legion reached a boiling point at the iconic Hoover Dam. Under the command of the Malpais legate Joshua Graham, the Legion forces descended upon the dam with a relentless determination, their eyes set on securing this strategic asset and critical river crossing. As the Legion launched their assault in what would later be remembered as the First Battle of Hoover Dam, chaos and carnage commenced. Betwixt the colossal concrete curves and cascading cataracts, with a ferocity born of unwavering devotion to Caesar's cause, the Legion surged forward, their ranks bolstered by their fervor of legionaries. Initially, the Legion's advance met with some measure of success, as they managed to dislodge the entrenched NCR defenders from their positions atop the dam. Joshua's overbearing determination and the sheer force of the Legion's onslaught seemed poised to carry the day. However, the tide of battle soon shifted, with the emergence of a formidable adversary, Chief Hanlon, the mastermind behind the NCR's elite forces, the 1st Recon and the NCR Rangers. Renowned for their skill in marksmanship and tactical ingenuity, Hanlon orchestrated a strategic retreat westward into Boulder City, drawing the Legion into a deadly trap. Utilizing their expertise in guerrilla warfare, the NCR sharpshooters systematically picked off the Legion's centurions and decani from afar, sowing chaos and confusion within the enemy ranks. Yet their true stroke of genius lay in the meticulous preparations made within Boulder City itself. Unbeknownst to the Legion, the Rangers and 1st Recon had rigged the city with explosives, transforming it into an inescapable labyrinth of death for anyone who dared to enter. As the Legion's elite forces pressed forward in hot pursuit of their elusive foes, the detonation of hidden explosives sent shockwaves into the air, engulfing the streets of Boulder City in flames and devastation. Caught off guard by the ferocity of the NCR's counterattack and the deadly efficiency of their traps, the Legion suffered severe casualties, their offensive grinding to a halt amidst the chaos and carnage. With the Legion's main force crippled and reeling from the devastating blow inflicted upon them, the NCR troops, under the command of General Lee Oliver, seized the opportunity to mount a fierce counteroffensive. In a dramatic turn of events, the tide of the battle shifted decisively in the favor of the NCR, as they rallied their forces and pushed back against the beleaguered Legion remnants. With the sound of gunfire and pleas for help echoing through the ravaged streets of Boulder City, the NCR emerged victorious, driving the Legion from the field and securing a hard-fought triumph in the heart of the Mojave wasteland. Caesar, furious at the failure of his closest ally, sought to make an example of him, to guarantee his fear-fueled grip on the soldiers. He had his personal guards tie up Joshua, covering him in pitch and oil. The former Mormon missionary was set ablaze and thrown down into the depths of the Grand Canyon. Caesar then enacted damnatio memoriae, forbidding even the memory of his former friend. Joshua would live this, his memory echoed in the whispers by the lowest-ranking legionaries and slaves, calling him the Burned Man. Though weakened by their loss at Hoover Dam, the Legion did not retreat. By 2281, just 4 years after the devastating defeat, Caesar's Legion had secured a stronger foothold in the west as well as the east, rebuilt its army, and slowly pushed toward the city of New Vegas. Now with 86 tribes brought to his side, or brought to the chopping block, their choice, the Legion continued to contest the NCR in the Mojave, decimating anything they came across with the flag of the two-headed bear. They destroyed many places you might have seen before, like Ranger Station Charlie and Camp Searchlight in the east of the Mojave. They overran the NCR town of Nelson and raided the town of Nipton. There, they rounded up everyone into the town they could catch, and gracefully issued a free lottery. The winner got to live. Those who were close to winning were just allowed to live a little longer than the rest.
Yeah! Who won the lottery? I did!
Scenes like this played out all across the Mojave, sowing discord and terror. Up to this point, we have covered the Legion's history, at least up to what we know. Now, we will take a look at some of the more internal goings-ons of the faction, such as political and religious aspects, their structure and hierarchy, and a few notable people the courier can meet in their journey. We all know that the Legion is stylized by Caesar and based on the Roman Empire, utilizing several titles and terms based in Latin. However, those in the Legion do not know of the historical Roman Empire, instead thinking that the entire aesthetic was invented by Caesar himself. The Legion flag is that of a golden bull on a red-crimson background, and hangs down rather than to the side like most other faction flags. The Legion bull appears on the currency, and the bull is often used as shorthands to refer to the Legion. Legion soldiers generally adore red tunics, with scrapped-together armor, often from pre-war sporting equipment. This became essentially standard when the Legion first conquered the pre-war city of Tucson, home of the University of Arizona. There, they amassed a large quantity of football shoulder pads, red jerseys, and other pre-war sport protection equipment. Higher-ranking legionaries tended to incorporate more effective means of protection in their uniforms, such as vault jumpsuits, super mutant armor, T-45D power armor components, and NCR Ranger combat armor. We can also see more of Caesar's likeness on the currencies of the Legion. His profile appears on them, and these coins are regarded to be the preeminent symbol of the Legion itself, both outside and within its borders. One coin depicts a young Caesar, and another, him in his wiser years. One even shows him, Joshua Graham, and Bill Calhoun on their journey through the Southwest, marking the beginnings of the Legion's rise. These coins remain the only instance left of the Legion's official recognition of Joshua Graham, and they would serve to give rise to the myth of the burned man. This is defiant of Caesar's will, as he has forbidden the memory of Joshua Graham amongst his ranks. Another symbol that is often associated with the Legion is crucifixion, a common punishment given out by Caesar to any of his enemies that resist. Those who fall this fate are often on the roadside purposefully, so that passers-by see them and associate them with the Legion. The Legion's ideology is centered on achieving survival and long-term stability, no matter what the cost. Caesar rejects democracies as ineffective systems prone to corruption and eventual collapse. He views ancient Rome, a militarized autocracy that effectively integrated the cultures it conquered, as the ideal blueprint for a society capable of enduring and prospering in a post-nuclear world. By dedicating its members to a higher cause, Caesar aims to prevent humanity from splintering and self-destructing again. He believes that the path to this goal lies in establishing a nationalist, imperialist, totalitarian, and homogeneous culture that obliterates the identities of subjugated groups. In this society, individuals are valued only for their usefulness to the state, whether in warfare or production. This ideology naturally places a heavy emphasis on personal sacrifice, with the belief that victory requires the shedding of blood and lives. Consequently, the Legion shuns the use of robots, holding the view that mankind needs warriors who are willing to sacrifice, rather than relying on machines that achieve bloodless victories. The Legion also bans painkillers and other drugs, including beneficial ones such as stim packs. They are viewed as detrimental to human resilience and Caesar's long-term vision for humanity. The lack of medical knowledge among the legionaries ensures that only the toughest survive to become battle-hardened veterans. Politically, this philosophy manifests as a strong disdain for democracy. which is seen as a weak and inefficient system that promotes disunity, greed, and self-interest at the expense of the collective good. Caesar cites the NCR as an example, pointing out to corruption by wealthy Brahmin barons and landowners, and widespread greed that undermines collective welfare. The legion is meant to be the opposite of the republic, favoring strong, centralized authority to prevent internal fragmentation and weakness. Conquering the NCR is intended to create order, reminiscent of the Roman Empire, and transition the legion from a rotting force to a domestic military power. Caesar's opposition to the NCR, he claims, is based on a loose interpretation of Hegelian dialectics, where the thesis, the NCR, and the antithesis, Caesar's legion, will eventually merge to form a synthesis, eliminating weakness and creating a new, improved order with shared elements and ideas. He compares the conflict between the NCR and the legion to the transformation of the ancient Roman Republic into the Roman Empire. The legion maintains a rigid hierarchy and strict division of roles between men and women. The legionaries who form the primary combat force consist of enslaved men or those who were born into the legion. Their mission is to fight for Caesar until death. This mission is deeply instilled in them through rigorous training and upbringing, resulting in unwavering loyalty. Like the Roman Empire, a legionary's rank is influenced by his experience or veteran status. Advancing in rank generally grants better issued equipment, but only to handle more dangerous tasks that have less room for failure. Legionaries lack personal freedoms and rights, and are viewed by Caesar as expendable tools, discarded when they are no longer useful. Women are prohibited from combat, and are considered breeding stock, often treated as rewards for legionaries. They fulfill roles as caretakers, healers, midwives, and breeders, essential for the legion's expansion. Priestesses, in particular, are tasked with raising children according to Caesar's teachings. The legion holds disparaging and misogynistic views towards women and their non-combatant roles. Caesar justifies gender segregation by the minimax principle, assigning roles to maximize potential and strengthen the legion. By keeping women out of combat, he increases their likelihood of bearing children, crucial due to high infant mortality and poor medical care. Population growth is essential for supplying more warriors for military campaigns. Caesar treats both sexes instrumentally, like pieces of a chessboard, without personal bias. To ensure maximum breeding, Caesar made homosexuality a capital offense and imposed child quotas on all legionaries. Despite these laws, there is speculation among the NCR and the Brotherhood of Steel that homosexuality still exists within the Legion, on a don't ask, don't tell basis. Similar to the Roman Empire, Veronica notes this about the Legion.
Although, I hear the soldiers mount each other as much as they mount their women, so maybe they did keep a little something from the Empire.
And Cass comments this to a male courier with the confirmed bachelor perk about his disinterest towards women.
What? Oh, all right. Guess you've got a Legion outlook on things. No problems here. There's a lot more of that in the Mojave than you see.
Major Knight also suggests this to a male homosexual courier.
Oddly enough, Legion's a little more forgiving about friendships. Out here, it's not as accepted.
The Legion's view on cannibalism is unclear, but Caesar is willing to work with members of the White Glove Society to achieve his goals. Some NCR citizens believe that members of the Legion even practice cannibalism themselves. The Legion also tolerates mutants, as long as they're submissive, particularly ghouls. Given their limited numbers, Caesar does not consider super mutants and ghouls a significant concern. Within the Legion, there is a complex web of social structures that are mainly dependent upon when the Legion made contact with them, or whether or not they were considered a tribal. We will cover the two primary categories of non-military social classes within the Legion, one of them being the normal Legion subjects or citizens, and the other being slaves and outsiders. Legion citizens, or non-enslaved individuals living under the Legion, are primarily residents of established non-tribal communities that predate the Legion's rise and have been left as free subjects. Rather than enslaving skilled individuals and diminishing their power base, the Legion prefers to enslave the tribal populations in areas they control, such as Arizona and New Mexico. However, in active conflict zones, like the Mojave or the NCR-controlled territories, the Legion may make exceptions and enslave non-tribal individuals. Those spared from enslavement and made subjects benefit from the Legion's governance, enjoying enhanced stability and security. Residents of Legion towns have reliable access to electricity, water, and a steady food supply. Along with low levels of crime and corruption, they lead safe and productive lives under the condition that they fully comply with the Legion's orders. Disobedience is not tolerated. Caesar's men issue commands that must be followed without question, even if it means relocating at a moment's notice. As a result, subjects have minimal political freedoms or rights. However, as long as they remain compliant and fulfill the Legion's occasional demands, Caesar is seen as a benevolent ruler. Many subjects accept this rule, as they had little political power to begin with before Caesar's rise. Legion territories are also highly lucrative for traders. Merchants can often travel without guards, as bandits have either been completely eliminated or driven away. Any threats to Legion lands or its people are met with swift and severe punishment, deterring even the savage fiends from attacking Legion caravans. Without the heavy taxation imposed by the NCR, many traders prefer to operate in Legion lands, though some still cross the river to trade with the NCR, which the Legion does not seem to interfere with at all. Dale Barton, an independent trader that the courier can speak to at the gates of Fortification Hill, has a few things he will say about life as a trader in Legion territory.
Hell, I don't even need to travel with guards most of the time in Legion territory. All the bandits are dead or run off. Between having to hire protection and getting slapped with taxes, it's more profitable to stick to Arizona and New Mexico. But I do cross the river from time to time when an opportunity comes along.
The Legion strictly enforces its policies against drugs and alcohol, harshly punishing anyone caught with these substances. For entertainment, the Legion forces slaves and prisoners to fight in their arenas. Young legionaries also battle each other in these arenas to gain recognition from a centurion. Outsiders are permitted to fight, but women are generally excluded, except for female slaves who have proven to be formidable fighters. The other notable social class is anyone outside the Legion ranks or control. They are deemed as dissolute, or referred to as profligates, terms implying a lack of morals. Newly captured individuals are called captures, and occupy the lowest status. Their only right is to be tested for suitability as a slave. Those who fail are killed. Slaves, a step above captures, are captured individuals deemed unfit for combat duty as legionaries. They must embody the virtues of honesty, industry, and prudence, and follow their master's orders without question. Slaves are assigned new names and wear rags marked with a bright red X on the chest. Some captures and slaves are even fitted with collars to ensure compliance. The Consul Officiorum ab Famulatus is the governmental position that oversees slavery. This consul typically works through representatives or administrators who manage sales, bargaining, and legal documentation, including bills of sale. The Legion meticulously maintains documentation, especially regarding pregnant women, as slavers may receive additional payments upon the birth of a slave's child. Legion members use a mix of Latin and English in their vocabulary. In classical Latin, there was no soft C sound. It was always pronounced as a K. In turn, they pronounced Caesar's name as Caesar. People outside of the Legion typically use the modern English pronunciation Caesar. Legion members are meticulous about classical Latin pronunciations, including the V to the W sound change. This can be seen in the greeting Ave, meaning hail, pronounced as Awe, or in Vulpes Inculta introducing himself, pronouncing his name as Wolpes instead. Those who have interacted with the Legion might use these pronunciations interchangeably. Legion members are referred to as legionaries, as opposed to legionnaires, a modern term used by the French Foreign Legion. Lastly, those favored by the Legion are called amicus, Latin for comrade, friend, or ally. Caesar's Legion uses two types of currency, modeled after coins from the Roman Empire. These coins are minted by the Legion from scavenged silver and gold, each featuring Caesar's profile. Even though Caesar has strained relations with other factions in New Vegas, Legion currency is accepted in the Mojave Wasteland due to the valuable precious metals they contain. The exchange rate is 4 bottle caps for 1 denarius, and 100 bottle caps for 1 aureus. This currency is also much stronger than the NCR dollar, having around 10 times the value of the rival faction's base currency. This is primarily due to internal struggles within the NCR, such as the removal of the gold standard backing their dollar, and hyperinflation as a result. As mentioned earlier, the silver denarius features an image of young Caesar on the front, and depictions of Caesar, Joshua Graham, and Bill Calhoun on the back. The Latin inscriptions read Caesar Dictator on the front, meaning of course Dictator Caesar or Absolute Ruler Caesar, and Magnum Chasma on the back, translating to Great Abyss or Great Fissure, referencing the Grand Canyon. This coin symbolizes young Caesar's journey to the Grand Canyon and his initial triumphs as leader of the Grand Canyon tribes. The gold aureus displays an older Caesar on one side and the Legion symbol, a bull, on the other. The Latin inscriptions are Eternitas Imperii on the front, meaning eternity of rule, and Pax per Bellum on the back, translating to peace through war. The Legion enforces the cult of Mars as its state religion, a pseudo-Roman neo-pagan cult centered around worshipping Caesar as the son of Mars. This began in 2250, when Caesar proclaimed himself as Mars's chosen, tasked with conquering the Earth. According to this belief, Mars purged the Earth with fire to reduce humanity to its lowest point, thus enabling Caesar's divine mission to rescue the wasteland from chaos and barbarism. In the eyes of the Legion, Caesar's divine status grants him the authority to demand absolute obedience, as following him equates to following Mars's will. Disobedience is considered a death sentence. In other words, the military conquests of the Legion are in turn fulfilling their religious duties to the divine. The religion is strictly enforced. To eliminate dissent, slave children are separated from their families and indoctrinated by priestesses of Mars, hand-picked by Caesar himself. This enforced ignorance helps maintain the illusion of divinity. Legionaries are indoctrinated to believe that all customs imposed by Caesar were decreed by Mars himself. Most Wastelanders, with their limited education, accept this without question. However, Caesar fears the educated, especially the followers of the Apocalypse, who could expose his grand deceit. To prevent this, there is a standing order to kill followers on sight or deliver them and any other educated captives to the Legion interrogators. Those who speak out against Caesar's claims face execution, their severed heads displayed on pikes as a warning. While Mars is openly worshipped by legionaries, there is no mention of other Roman gods, in a sense making it a monotheistic Roman-based religion. Caesar has modeled his slave army after the Roman imperial legions, following the Marian reforms, which essentially transformed the military into the first professional fighting force. Here's the breakdown of the legion's organization. The entire army is commanded by Caesar, the political leader, and a favored legate, the military commander. The legion is structured into cohorts of 480 men, which are further divided into 8 centurii of 80 men, each led by a centurion, subdivided into 10 contubernii of 8 men, each led by a decanus. The contubernium is the smallest unit, typically used for skirmishes or harassing larger groups. Rank within the legion is based on experience and combat merit. The least experienced legionaries are usually the first to engage in battle, acting as a sort of cannon fodder. Those who survive and distinguish themselves in combat become prime legionaries, eligible to lead as a decanus and participate in second wave attacks. The highest ranks are occupied by seasoned veterans, who serve as the third wave and as the rear guard. These elite troops are deployed after the first two waves, ensuring that the Legion's strongest forces face a weakened enemy. Veterans demonstrating leadership may advance to the Centurion status, becoming the Legion's most skilled commanders. Their armor, adorned with trophies from defeated foes, signifies their battlefield achievements. Centurions are rare and valued for their leadership, so they seldom engage directly in combat. The Legion also has specialized roles beyond the standard ranks. The Vexillarius, or Standard Bearers, carry the Legion's banners into battle, serving as rallying points. The Frumentari and Speculatores are special forces responsible for infiltration, subterfuge, and reconnaissance, with specialized training for outstanding legionaries. And finally, the Praetorians, an elite bodyguard unit, are hand-picked by Caesar to protect him and the legates. They are extremely trusted by Caesar and can act as an extension of his will if he is not present. The Legion dedicates significant time and effort into molding its warriors into some of the wasteland's most formidable combatants. It recruits from the many tribes it has conquered, and from male children born within the Legion. The physical training regimen is grueling and demanding, comparable to that of the NCR Rangers, the only group within the NCR that the Legion seems to have a slight amount of respect for. Legionaries are uniformly fast, strong, and extremely dangerous, capable of running significantly faster than the best NCR troops and closing distances with alarming speed. Pain resistance is a key aspect of their training, developed through brutal hand-to-hand combat and melee weapon exercises, though their discipline is even more impressive than their physical prowess. Rank-and-file legionaries are conditioned not to think for themselves, eradicating internal conflict. This results in a level of discipline on the battlefield that surpasses that of their closest competitors, the NCR. Legionaries will follow any order from their superiors, and will not retreat until they are either dead or recalled by their commanders. If training fails, fear is used as a motivator. Those who fail or disobey orders face crucifixion or dismemberment in front of Caesar. In extreme cases, the legate may order decimation, where a tenth of the unit is beaten to death by the other 9/10, as a severe disciplinary measure. The courier has a chance to hear of this occurring from Mr. New Vegas on the radio.
The legate then ordered a tenth of his own force be killed by the other 9/10. And you thought your boss was a pain.
These traits make legionaries fierce in close quarters combat, where they have very few equals. NCR soldiers are generally advised to engage them from a distance to avoid close combat, something Legion soldiers look down upon them for. Although the standard gear for legionaries includes light armor and melee weapons, they are still quite a pragmatic fighting force. They are also trained in ranged combat, and firearms, even though in poor condition, are not uncommon to find on the battlefield. Legionaries are authorized to scavenge better weapons from fallen enemies. As a result, the NCR instructs troops to destroy their weapons if fatally wounded, to prevent them from being used by the Legion. Higher-ranking legionaries, such as veterans and centurions, are typically equipped with high-quality, well-maintained firearms, like the anti-material rifle or the 12.7mm submachine gun, weapons in which they wield with deadly efficiency. This training, combined with equipment, creates a versatile military force capable of fighting at all ranges and using various weapons, especially adept at taking enemy fortifications and bases. However, the Legion does have weaknesses. The extreme discipline and obedience of the lower ranks rely heavily on a strong chain of command to guide them into battle. Without their decani or centurions, legionaries can become a disorganized mass, easy to rout and destroy. This reliance on veteran leadership was exploited by Chief Hanlon during the First Battle of Hoover Dam. By targeting officers, the Legion forces were lured into a trap at Boulder City and subsequently annihilated. The Legion conducts warfare in an organized and strategic manner. While its organizational structure mirrors that of the post-Marian Roman legions, Its battle tactics resemble that of the early Republic's maniple system. In large-scale battles, legionaries are deployed in successive waves. Recruits form the front line, seasoned soldiers follow behind, and veterans, known as the Old Guard, are positioned at the rear. This strategy exhausts the enemy with the initial waves, allowing the veterans to eliminate any remaining resistance. However, this is not a rigid rule. Caesar can adapt the deployment of legionaries for skirmishes while maintaining order within the ranks. In smaller raids, the legion employs swift attacks followed by systematic slaughter and crucifixion, as seen in Nipton. Legate Lanius mentions that their forces excel at capturing positions, but are less effective at holding them, due to their preference for close combat.
Our forces are better equipped to take objectives than hold them. I do not wish to defend this place if another option exists.
Additionally, legionaries intentionally commit atrocities to instill fear and weaken enemy morale. They sometimes use children as traps and as soldiers, and employ looting to terrorize civilian populations. The Legion also aims to demoralize enemy forces before a battle by torturing prisoners within sight of the opposing army. The Legion's ultimate goal is to conquer the known world and to bring it under its control. In 2281, it engaged in a fierce conflict with the NCR along the Colorado River. Most tribes that haven't been assimilated by the Legion are openly hostile, fearing that they will be the next targets of its expansionist campaign. Despite promises of safety and independence, Caesar has betrayed some tribes in the past. This betrayal has led to opposition from ruthless organizations like the Van Graffs and groups like the Desert Rangers, a precursor group to the NCR Rangers that fought a vicious guerrilla war against the Legion within Arizona. Despite widespread dislike among civilized groups, the Legion excels at assimilating tribal communities. Tribals who generally respect power often align with the Legion over the NCR. For instance, the Whitelegs are staunch allies, serving as proxies in the war for Zion. After a crushing defeat at Hoover Dam in 2281, the Legion is now seeking alliances with local factions to undermine their enemies from within. They have allied with the Great Khans and Omertas, intending to use them for their plans in the Mojave before eventually assimilating or eliminating them. Another aspect of foreign relations is trade. As mentioned, trader Dale Barton prefers dealing in Legion territories, citing lower overhead costs due to not needing protection and avoiding high taxes, thanks to the Legion's effective suppression of raiders and wasteland creatures. Rose of Sharon Cassidy acknowledges that caravan life would also be easier under Legion control compared to the NCR, as the Legion does not impose exorbitant tolls and provides a reliable route protection. She suggests that the towns might also capitulate if they were offered similar security. Ulysses notes that Caesar has instructed Legion couriers not to kill other ones, as many of them are actually disguised frumentarii.
Caesar's orders. Sometime before, I realized the why of it. Wasn't just you. All couriers. No telling how many were Legion. Maybe all of them.
In addition, the Legion enforces a strict frontier justice policy, eradicating all savage, chem-dependent raider gangs and tribes they consider to be unworthy of joining their ranks. With some exceptions, most legionaries lack exposure to advanced technology. While the Legion may be short on technical expertise, it compensates with ingenuity. Their combat gear is designed for durability and ease of production, with standardization across all ranks. The Legion excels at constructing large fortifications from scavenged materials, managing extensive supply lines for its vast army, and mass-producing standard-issue weapons and armor. Caesar believes that the over-reliance on technology weakens humanity, and was partly responsible for the Great War. The Legion emphasizes martial skill and physical conditioning, minimizing the need for advanced weaponry. The complexity of a legionary's equipment reflects their rank. Lower-ranking soldiers typically use basic firearms, power fists, or melee weapons inspired by the Roman gladius and pilum. Higher-ranking members, including prime legionaries, decani, and centurions, have access to more advanced weaponry like anti-material rifles, marksman carbines, and super sledges. Caesar's personal guards are equipped with high-tech ballistic fists to enhance their combat abilities. Due to limited technical training, many legionaries are unfamiliar with the operation of certain weapons, and might not even know how to disarm landmines. Although no Legion members use energy weapons, they are interested in acquiring them from the Van Graffs. The Legion does not employ power armor either, though elements of T-45 power armor are incorporated into Centurion-issued equipment. They also possess a significant number of stealth boys, which are used by the Legion at dry wells and the marked men in the Divide, but are not seen in the Mojave. A high reputation with the Legion can lead to a steady supply of stealth boys for the courier as well, as Atticus, the attendant at the Legion safe house, will supply 2 to the courier every time they interact during visits. As mentioned, all troops are outfitted in standardized Legion armor, resembling Roman Iorica Hamata or Iorica Segmentata, crafted from salvaged pre-war sports gear, primarily American football equipment from the University of Arizona, and reinforced with metal plates. This armor is worn over a tunic. Centurions create their own protection from pieces of body armor obtained from defeated enemies, while high-ranking members like Gaius Magnus and Legate Lanius have custom metal armor, indicating some original craftsmanship by Legion blacksmiths. Due to a ban on modern medicine, alcohol, and synthetic chems, the Legion relies on traditional remedies made from local plants and animals. Common treatments include healing powder and bitter drinks for wounds. They use a potent chem called Hydra, brewed from local wildlife and cave fungus. The Legion also produces antivenom to counteract injuries from venomous creatures of the wasteland. The only technology absolutely forbidden, besides pharmaceuticals and medicine, is robotics. Caesar disapproves of robots participating in wars fought by humans, as it undermines the principle of sacrifice for the greater good. Nonetheless, the Legion is pragmatic and will use any available technology to achieve its objectives, such as using a howitzer to target NCR snipers or occupying Helios 1 after the courier uses Archimedes. While the Legion frequently uses radios, it generally favors non-power devices for their reliability. From basic legionaries to Caesar himself, the Legion has many interesting characters that are able to be interacted with. In this section, we will look at some of these more notable characters, diving into their background and how they are contributing to the Legion's cause. Little is known about Lanius' life before his rise to the position of legate, and the details that do exist are often conflicting and contradictory. Caesar portrays him as a legendary warrior from the Hoover Tribe in Arizona, whose formidable combat skills were so impressive that he single-handedly eliminated Legion patrols and delayed the tribe's annexation by several months. When the Legion eventually surrounded the Hoover's main camp, their chief chose to surrender rather than face destruction. Overcome with rage, Lanius turned his fury on his own people, killing 15 of his own warriors before he was finally subdued. Caesar intervened, rescuing the battle-scarred warrior, who had suffered severe facial injuries. Once Lanius regained consciousness, Caesar offered him a helmet, forged from iron as a replacement for his lost face. Provided he joins his ranks, Lanius in turn agreed, on the condition that he could execute all of the surviving males of his tribe, leaving only the boys for training and indoctrination. Other accounts from legionaries paint a different picture. Lucius claims that Lanius was born into slavery, but due to his exceptional abilities, became a full legionary by the age of 12, and has never been defeated in battle. Antony, a Legion Houndmaster, suggests that it took years to subdue Lanius' tribe, and the survivors were given the choice to join the Legion rather than face extermination to satisfy Lanius' bloodlust. Outside of Legion narratives, Joshua Graham, the first legate and Caesar's closest advisor, has no recollection of Lanius during his time in service, despite the fact that by the time Graham was fallen, all of Arizona was under Legion control. This raises questions about how Lanius could have evaded Graham's notice. It is possible that Lanius is less a real individual and more of a constructed myth, serving as a powerful symbol to inspire his troops and intimidate his enemies. Lanius is acutely aware of his legendary status, and carefully maintains it, going so far as to blind his own slaves to ensure that no one sees his face without a mask, or reveal details that could undermine his myth. such as his undamaged face. His fearsome reputation has left many, especially women, deeply terrified of him. Before his arrival at Hoover Dam, Lanius spearheaded a campaign to expand the Legion's ranks and enhance its military might following the defeat at the dam in 2277. He led the conquest of Colorado, either slaying its tribal populations or absorbing them into the Legion. In Denver, he crushed the hangdogs by throwing their sacred hounds onto burning pyres, ensuring their souls would suffer in the afterlife. The campaign, which lasted for years, strained Legion resources to their limits. The scarcity of food, water, and reinforcements took a significant toll on his troops and underscored the critical importance of logistics, a lesson that made him very cautious of overly ambitious plans. His final campaign before receiving orders to assault Hoover Dam was in the wilderness of Utah. By the end of this campaign, Lanius' forces had either incorporated 14 tribes into the Legion or wiped out 5 others, totaling 19 tribes. The victory achieved by Gaius Magnus upon his arrival seemingly added a 20th tribe, as indicated by the distinct armor given to the centurion. These tribes could not stand against him, and the new California Republic was set to be his next great conquest. To the legionaries, his arrival was seen as a forecast of disaster for the Republic. As a symbol, Lanius appeared to be the ideal legionary. His name, Latin for butcher, was earned through his victories in numerous battles. His infamous brutality earned him a reputation as a savage beast, and Caesar emphasized that Lanius was believed to be loyal only to him, not to the Legion as a whole. This apparent lack of allegiance was seen as a strength, as Lanius cared little for battlefield losses, or the lives of his fellow legionaries. His sole focus was on defeating the enemy at any cost, to solidify his fearsome reputation. Caesar relied on Lanius to enforce severe punishment against underperforming legates and centurions, executing the officer in front of his troops, and then having every 10th legionary in the disgraced unit beaten to death by his comrades. This carefully crafted myth portrayed Lanius as a ruthlessly effective commander, renowned for his unwavering loyalty to Caesar and his ability to detect weakness in any army. To his enemies, he was seen as a brutal force, known for straightforward tactics like frontal assaults and wave attacks, relying on sheer strength to overcome the NCR. His allies also viewed him as a relentless beast, capable of detecting and setting traps, but indifferent to losses as long as the enemy suffered more. Although he is not the only legate, Lanius is the foremost among them, serving as both the highest marshal of Caesar's forces and his designated successor. Many fear what might happen to the Legion if Caesar were to die, leaving Lanius to take command of the vast army, a prospect that many regard with apprehension. But Lanius was no mere beast. He was something worse, a man, driven by a strong ideological conviction. For Lanius, war was the ultimate test of civilization, where the weak were consumed as a fuel to forge the strong and allow them to rise to prominence. Unlike a beast, he valued diplomacy to some extent, even though he held martial prowess in higher regard. He respected those who fought with words, but had a deep disdain for treachery, in particular the methods used by Vulpes, a legion frumentari. Although he accepted Vulpes' tactics as a necessary deception in Caesar's service, he resented the idea of the Omerta's rebellion contributing to the legion's victory, feeling that it tainted the purity of a triumph achieved through martial strength alone. In the NCR, Lanius saw opponents who were competent but not exceptional. He respected their long-range combat abilities, acknowledged the occasional brilliance of their leaders, and valued the skills of rangers. However, he found it regrettable that he was up against General Lee Oliver, rather than the more cunning Chief Hanlon. Oliver's lack of strategic insight, coupled with his belief in Lanius' savage reputation, was a significant advantage for Lanius. He planned to exploit this by using intake pipes and maintenance tunnels to launch a surprise attack on the Hoover Dam, coordinating with surface forces to encircle and destroy NCR troops without risking defeat from attrition. This approach was risky and required swift execution to prevent the NCR from regrouping and launching a counteroffensive. Despite his reverence for Caesar and the Legion, Lanius had his doubts about the campaign. The harsh lessons from his previous conquests, particularly in Colorado, and the cursed city of Denver, made him view the West as a potential trap rather than a prize. The Republic's difficulties in maintaining control and providing for its people only reinforced this perception. Although he was prepared to advance for Caesar, he was also ready to retreat and focus on strengthening the legion if a defeat seemed imminent. Lucius leads the Praetorian Guard in Caesar's legion, and is considered to be one of Caesar's most trusted advisors. Should Benny fall into the hands of the legion, it is Lucius who is tasked with torturing him and extracting information about the platinum chip. Although he is relatively old, Lucius has retained his role in the Praetorian Guard for 13 years, a tenure uninterrupted by any challenges for his position through combat. Caesar believes this longevity may stem more from the respect Lucius commands among his subordinates, rather than solely from his own strength. Vulpes, originally from a tribe south of Utah, was taken into Caesar's legion as a child. After surviving the rigorous training, he became a legionary and earned a promotion to decanus due to his commendable performance in battle. His ascent continued when he pulled off a clever tactical maneuver, breaking ranks during a skirmish to capture a tribal chieftain. Although his centurion wanted him crucified for disobeying orders, Caesar recognized the young man's potential and chose to utilize him in a more strategic capacity. Since then, Vulpes' methods have been controversial within the legion. While Caesar appreciates the strategic value of espionage and deceit, not everyone within the legion agrees with his approach. According to Ulysses, Vulpes Inculta was responsible for the annihilation of the Twisted Hares at Dry Wells after the legion's campaign in Arizona. The Twisted Hares who resisted were crucified along Interstate 40. By 2281, Vulpes has risen to become the leader of the Frumentarii and orchestrated many of the Legion's covert operations, including incursions into NCR territory like Operation Racket. The plan to have the Omertas attack the Strip while the Second Battle of Hoover Dam is underway. The Battle of Nelson, the massacre at Nipton, and the destruction of Camp Searchlight. The latter was accomplished by the releasing of radioactive wastes from containers in the city's fire station, significantly weakening the NCR's position and allowing the Legion to establish a foothold at Cottonwood Cove. These actions earned Vulpes infamy within the NCR army, making him a prominent figure in the military propaganda. Vulpes is adept at sabotage and disguise, having visited the Strip multiple times without being detected by the NCR or even Mr. House. Vulpes is a staunch adherent to Caesar's ideology, with loyalty, martial prowess, and justice being central tenets he upholds. Embracing Caesar's principles, Vulpes orchestrated the massacre at Nipton to demonstrate Caesar's far-reaching power and to highlight the moral decay of those under NCR rule. He is particularly repulsed by disloyalty and enforces harsh punishment for betrayal, as seen with the public execution of Nipton's mayor, who was burned alive for deceit. Vulpes also despises inaction and selfishness, noting that despite being outnumbered, none of the captured individuals in Nipton attempted to revolt during the lottery.
Nipton was a wicked place, debased and corrupt. It served all comers, so long as they paid. Profligate troops, powder gangers, men of the Legion, such as myself. The people here didn't care. It was a town of whores. For a pittance, the town agreed to lead those it had sheltered into a trap. Only when I sprang it did they realize they were caught inside it too.
Karl is one of the Legion's Frumentarii, tasked with scouting the wasteland and establishing connections with the tribes that could advance Caesar's objectives. He is currently stationed at Red Rock Canyon, serving as the Legion's representative to the Great Khans and referring to his position as a token of our alliance. Although he publicly claims to admire the Great Khans as fellow warriors, his personal journal tells a different story. It reveals that Karl harbors significant disdain for the Khans, considering them barbaric savages. He also conceals the Legion's policy of relegating women to roles as servants and slaves, even misleading a female Khan by suggesting she could join Caesar's army as an explorer. Officially, Ronald Curtis is a highly regarded officer in the NCR Army, having rapidly ascended to the rank of captain and Bravo Company commander in just 3.5 years, 6 months faster than usual. This rapid rise was no mere coincidence, however. Curtis is actually a deep-cover frumentari named Picus, who was sent by Caesar years before the Legion's arrival at the Colorado River to challenge the NCR. Picus is one of the Legion's most valued operatives, with his false identity meticulously crafted over the years, including the assassination of Bravo Company's former commander to secure his position of authority and trust. As Curtis, he has earned a reputation as a hardliner, treating missed roll calls as desertion and using it as grounds for flogging soldiers, regardless of the circumstances. Typically, Curtis would lead Bravo Company in the field. However, General Lee Oliver stationed his company at Camp McCarran to reinforce its defenses. While Bravo Company mans the walls as forward sentries, Curtis manages NCR operations alongside Colonel James Hugh, gaining full access to patrol schedules, supply lines, and reinforcement logistics, which he controls. This position is advantageous for Picus, allowing him to discreetly relay logistical information back to Caesar's Legion, sabotage NCR assets, and stay ahead of efforts to expose him. Although he provides daily intelligence on patrols and NCR plans to the Legion, his primary objective is to build up enough trust with the Colonel so he can execute a major sabotage plan while maintaining his cover. Picus also secured Martina Grosbeck as an informant on the Strip, using her to gather information about New Vegas, including its casinos and the Three Families, while keeping his true allegiance hidden from her. The Legion's frumentari have meticulously planned this operation, known as Operation Racket, as part of a broader strategy. Picus's infiltration was a crucial step, allowing the Legion to exploit the NCR's bolstered presence in New Vegas from Camp McCarran, with the connecting monorail enabling them to occupy two positions at once. Over his years at Camp McCarran, Picus has gathered extensive knowledge about the monorail, which is vital to the NCR's effectiveness. By 2281, Picus began to suspect that the Colonel might be onto him, prompting him to seek a scapegoat for the forthcoming sabotage of the monorail. He planned to frame Private Davy Crenshaw, known for his pranks, by planting bomb-making supplies in his locker, ensuring that Crenshaw's death would prevent any leaks of his true identity. Curtis is also well known to Vulpus Inculta, the leader of the frumentari, who has been closely monitoring his progress. When the courier arrives at Camp McCarran, Picus's elaborate sabotage plan is poised for execution, awaiting the right co-conspirator to complete it. Ulysses was formerly a member of the Twisted Hairs, a formidable tribe from what is now Arizona. In 2247, the emerging Caesar's Legion sought out the Twisted Hairs, making them the primary scouts during the Legion's campaign against other Arizona tribes. At that time, Ulysses, who went by a different tribal name, was one of the most skilled scouts among the Twisted Hairs, renowned for his ability to cover extensive distances and track both his enemies and those of Caesar. His scouting skills were complemented by his deep knowledge of herbal remedies and survival techniques. As previously mentioned, after the Legion had subdued or annihilated the tribes of Arizona, Caesar betrayed the Twisted Hairs, breaking their alliance and enslaving them just as he'd done with other tribes. Their tribal identity was completely obliterated. The pacification of the Twisted Hairs at Dry Wells, though not their homeland, was especially traumatic for Ulysses. Despite his personal anguish, his loyalty to Caesar and the Legion's cause kept him from defecting. After the destruction of his tribe, he abandoned his former name and adopted Ulysses, a reference to Ulysses S. Grant, symbolizing the struggle to unify conflicting forces. His survival skills and commanding presence soon made him a vital frumentari for the Legion. Acting as an inconspicuous courier, he adhered to Caesar's edicts to never kill any other courier, recognizing that many of them were also Legion spies. In 2274, when the new California Republic arrived at Hoover Dam, Ulysses was the one who crossed the Colorado River from the east and was the first legionnaire to witness the dam and the flag of the two-headed bear, an imposing rival power. Reporting back to Caesar, Ulysses described the dam and the strength of the NCR, sparking Caesar's obsession with the dam as a symbol of future power for his legion. However, Ulysses viewed the dam as an omen of Caesar's potential downfall, regardless of the outcome of the conflict with the NCR. His foreshadowing nearly came to pass during the First Battle of Hoover Dam, when the NCR Rangers, led by Chief Hanlon, defeated Malpais legate Joshua Graham. For this failure, Caesar ordered Graham to be covered in pitch, set on fire, and thrown into the Grand Canyon, an event Ulysses witnessed firsthand. This reinforced Ulysses' belief that Caesar would relentlessly pursue his conquest of the Dam and the Mojave Wasteland, no matter the cost. Ulysses' story continues well past this point, but that may be a story for another day. Aurelius, a towering figure at 6'5", was chosen by Caesar to establish a stronghold on the west bank of the Colorado River. Following Vulpes and Colta's successful sabotage of Camp Searchlight, Aurelius chose Cottonwood Cove as his base, setting up a new Legion outpost across from the Colorado's Narrows. Despite having only 2 contubernia at his disposal, his aggressive tactics and ruthless attacks on NCR patrols resulted in casualties that far exceeded his own numbers. His second command, Decanus Severus, plays a crucial role in managing resources as Aurelius' quartermaster. Aurelius is proud of his rank as centurion, and has little patience for those he deems unworthy of high positions, or those who test his temper, often threatening them with crucifixion. His pride is reflected in the centurion armor he wears, earned through years of dedicated service and conquest for Caesar, a distinction he guards fiercely. He harbors a deep disdain for NCR forces, viewing them as cowards for avoiding direct confrontation and relying on cunning tactics. He revels in the thought of crucifying or killing NCR soldiers, even offering rewards for NCR dog tags brought to him. He may also extend his respect to those who demonstrate exceptional skill in killing, even if they are otherwise deemed inferior, as long as their achievements surpass those of seasoned Legion veterans. Despite his imposing ego and brutality towards NCR troops, Aurelius has a softer side, evident in his office, where he keeps a toy car, a teddy bear, and a Grognak the Barbarian comic. Something else of question is the presence of beer and cigarettes in his barracks, raising questions about whether they are his personal items or confiscated contraband. Silas stands out in the Legion not for his bravery, but for his exceptional insight and intelligence. Despite the Legion's intense indoctrination, he has managed to maintain independent thought and sharp observational skills. His rise to the rank of centurion was earned through his courage and unwavering loyalty to Caesar. Silas and his unit were responsible for eliminating numerous NCR patrols, facilitating the movement of Legion operatives, and he once faced a group of armed men with only a knife, leaving them more frightened than he was. He was not oblivious to Caesar's deteriorating health, however, or his own value within the Legion. Before embarking on his final mission, Silas waited 3 days for Caesar's headaches to subside, despite the urgent nature of his task. This delay led to his centuria being ambushed and defeated by the NCR. His observations of Caesar and the Legion led him to believe that Caesar was increasingly losing his faculties and leadership ability. As his men fell around him, Silas chose not to end his own life to avoid capture, refusing to abandon his hard-won achievements for what he saw as a megalomaniacal, self-appointed dictator. Captured by the NCR and brought to McCarran for interrogation, Silas remains tight-lipped and takes pleasure in taunting his captors, particularly Lieutenant Carrie Boyd, whom he mocks with suggestions of her in a slave collar. Silas also recognized Captain Ronald Curtis when he arrived at McCarran, recalling their previous encounter during Curtis's Frumentari training. Although he did not know Curtis's current identity, he remembered that Curtis's intelligence had frequently reached Silas's unit, aiding their strikes against the NCR. Despite Lieutenant Boyd's effort to extract useful information from him, Silas remained steadfast, demonstrating his continued loyalty to the Legion by refusing to kill himself or reveal any secrets. Antony, once a member of the Hangdogs, a Denver-based tribe that held dogs in a high spiritual regard. Before Lanius destroyed the tribe's revered hounds and absorbed the Hangdogs into the Legion, Antony was a devoted worshiper of these animals. After the Legion's conquest, Antony buried his painful past and channeled his skills into becoming a houndmaster. His extensive experience with the dogs has resulted in some of the Legion's finest hounds. Although the Hangdogs have been erased from history, Antony's dogs remained his greatest passion. He has immense respect for their abilities and values them highly. Lupa, the mother of many of the Legion's top hounds, is particularly cherished by Antony, He is so dedicated to her that he is even considering having her brain implanted into a cyberdog to ensure her legacy. Although his harshness extends to the Legion's slaves, including the child Melody, he believes that it's a privilege for her to even wear clothes, and upon finding her teddy bear, took it away and gave it to his dogs as a chew toy. The bear was subsequently destroyed by the hounds. Previously a member of the Blackfoot Tribe, one of the first to join Caesar in founding his legion, Canyon Runner advanced through the ranks to become a slave master. He specializes in breaking prisoners captured by the Legion, transforming them into compliant slaves. A devout supporter of Caesar, he believes that through conquest and enslavement, he is providing people with purpose and virtue, effectively saving them from themselves. When discussing his role, he highlights the strategic importance of Cottonwood Cove as a base for Legion raids. While Cottonwood Cove itself is not a site for breaking slaves, Canyon Runner assesses the fitness of new captures before they are sent across the Colorado River, and manages incoming captives from raiding parties. For those who do not antagonize the Legion, he is open to trading or selling prisoners who have not yet been converted into slaves. By 2281, Canyon Runner is frustrated with his latest group of captives, the Weathers family. He finds them challenging as they are most unsuitable for slavery, with the exception of the daughter, and the mother's tendency to be defiant is particularly troublesome. He would prefer to sell them for caps, but a lack of buyers means he has to keep them confined until a suitable opportunity arises to ship them out. If you're wondering about what happens next, in Fallout New Vegas, Caesar's Legion can have several endings, depending on the player's choices throughout the game. If the player sides with Caesar's Legion and helps them achieve victory over the other factions, primarily NCR and Mr. House, the Mojave Wasteland comes under Legion control. Many consider this to be a bad ending, due to the Legion's brutal methods and oppressive rule. The wild card ending occurs if the player chooses the wild card questline, siding with Yes Man, but also negotiates a truce or alliance with Caesar's Legion. This usually involves completing certain quests and making specific decisions that allow for a temporary or an easy alliance between an independent New Vegas and the Legion. It is also possible for the player to assassinate Caesar himself during the quest at Tumor Brute. This action can significantly alter the Legion's storyline, as it creates internal strife and leadership struggles within the faction. If the player sides with the NCR and helps them defeat the Legion, Caesar's Legion is defeated, and their presence in the Mojave Wasteland is effectively ended. This is one of the main endings where the player works against the Legion. If the player sides with Mr. House and helps him control New Vegas, the Legion is neutralized as a threat to the region. This ending involves avoiding direct conflict with the Legion by focusing on the other factions and technological advancements. Each ending reflects different choices and alliances the player can make through the game, ultimately shaping the fate of the Mojave Wasteland and its inhabitants. You can even acquire an ending while siding with the Legion and also killing Caesar. That is, if you're able to convince them not to kill you immediately after. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the origin and rise of Caesar's Legion. I would like to thank everyone who stayed until the end of the video. If you did, you might also enjoy some of the other Fallout related content on the channel. If you want to hear more specifically about the Burned Man we mentioned earlier, or other Fallout lore, go check out the channel for other content that might pique your interest. Let us know down in the comments below what faction you want to see next. While you're there, it would also be appreciated if you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the content. It's free and helps us out a lot. We would also like to thank our Patreon followers who support us. We are very appreciative of all the positive feedback we get from our community. Thank you again. Anyways, what are your thoughts on the Legion? Did you side with them, or did you fight against them in the second battle of Hoover Dam? And do you think we will see the Legion again in future Fallout games, or even the Fallout TV series? Let us know down in the comments below. And as always, thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe for more content.